Hey guys, good morning. Here it is Sunday morning again. This is number 3 now on the video lessons that we're doing. Unfortunately, we're not able to go back to church right now. So in the meantime, we're going to be bringing you video lessons. Hope you guys had a great week. Hope you spent time with mom and dad, your siblings, and hope you put the old cell phone down and electronics down long enough to enjoy some quality time with your family. If you didn't, I'm going to encourage you this week, spend some time with them. They will appreciate that. So I miss you guys. I've seen some of you on the mission fundraiser weekends that we've worked. Those that have came out and helped, I do appreciate it. More than anything else, those families that we've helped, they definitely appreciate the help. So thank you again, guys. We will be continue doing that because we are allowed to work during this time. So when I get some more workforce, I'll let you guys know, and hopefully we can continue that on a weekend basis. So here we go. We're going to dive right into our lesson. We're in Genesis again. Last week, remember, we were talking about Noah, the great boat, the great ark that he built, and we know why. So why did God flood the earth? Well, because mankind, you and I, were just wicked. Every inclination of our heart, all we thought about was wickedness 24/7. And so the God said, boop, I'm done with you. Except he found one guy, Noah, who was righteous, and he told Noah what he needed him to do for him. So today's lesson, the title of today's lesson is God's Plan. So if you're taking notes, write it down. God's Plan is the name of this lesson. Well, what does that mean, Mr. David? What type of plans are you talking about? It's God's plans. Well, does God have plans? Well, sure he does. If you look in God's Word, he is the Alpha and the Omega, which means he's the beginning and the end. So if you start in Genesis, in the creation, and go all the way to the end of the back of the book of Revelations, we know how it ends. He tells us how it's going to end. And if you're a Christian, guess what? We win. But through his book, there's a bunch of plans that God has in his Bible. And guess what? Those plans, he uses ordinary people like you and I to fulfill his plans. So let's just read one right off the bat. Since we're in Genesis, let's talk about a plan. It's Noah, okay? Let's read it. We're in chapter 6, and we're going to go over here to chapter 14. God's going to give Noah a plan. Let's read it. Chapter 6, verse 14, and it says he's going to give him a plan to build the ark. How are you going to build it? Stand by. God's going to give us a plan. So he says, chapter 6, verse 14, so make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. Pitch is tar, it waterproofs it, keeps the water out. This is how you are to build it. This is how you are to build it. So God gives him directions. The ark will be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof an opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door in the side of the ark and make a lower, middle, and upper deck. So God gave Noah a plan. He gave him plans to build the ark. How long did it take Noah to build the ark? It took him a while, probably about 75 to 100 years, depends on who you talk to. But Noah didn't waver on God's plan. So Noah stuck to God's plan, even though it might have took him 100 years to build it. Well, Mr. David, does God have plans for me? I'm glad you asked. Let's look at it. God does have a plan for you and for me. Jeremiah 29:11. Let's read it. Let's see what God says. He says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. So here's what God says. He says, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. So that's God's plan for us to prosper, to have hope, and to have a future. Well, how do we go about finding God's plan? How do we know what God has in store for us? What's God's plan He has for us? Well, guys, God has a plan for you. He has a plan for all of us. He tells us right there. So how are we supposed to know this? Are we supposed to just wake up one morning and go, hey, I know what God's plan is? We're not that smart, because there's somebody else out there that's fighting against us, and we know who he is, all right? So for you and I to know what our God's plan is, we got to open this, okay? We got to open the Bible. We got to read the Bible. If we don't open the Bible, there's no way we can hear from God. So God says the road to righteousness, the road to me, leads to is down the narrow road, the narrow path. But the wide road, the wide path, leads to destruction. And that's the world. So if we're going to know God's plan, guys, you and I have to get in God's Word. That's the only way. We can't do it on our own, because remember, we're broken. Adam sinned, separated us from God. We're broken. Left up to ourselves, we're wicked. God destroyed mankind because why? He was wicked. Well, guess what? You and I are the same way, because he says it after Noah gets off the boat, he sets up an altar, and God says again, you and I are wicked from childbirth. So we're broken. There's only one way for you and I to know God's plan, and that's to get in his Word. So I'm going to challenge you to open God's Word daily and start reading it. If you do not read it, there's no way that you're going to know what God's plan is for you and for your life. Is this something that's a short term? Is this a sprint, Mr. David? Nope. It's a marathon, guys. It's a lifestyle. It's a changing lifestyle. It's not something we do part-time. It's something we do for the entire lifetime. And we never get it right. God's constantly working on us. But if we don't open God's Word, you and I will never, ever know the plans God has for us. Because he tells us in Jeremiah, God says, I know the plans I have for you. So he knows the plans. He knows what he has for you. Those plans are to prosper, not to harm you, to give you hope in the future. So God's sitting up there saying, hey guys, hey Trey, hey Josh, hey Hunter, Parker, Jackson. If I left anybody out, I'm sorry. I got plans for you guys. They're to prosper. They're for hope. They're for a future. But I can't do it. You've got to take a step. You've got to open my Word, and you've got to read my Word. And if you read my Word, then I'm going to allow you to prosper. I'm going to show you the hope, and I'm going to show you the future. So guys, don't miss the boat. Get in your Word. Your life will be like a boat on the ocean with no motor and no rudder. It'll be just blown around by the wind with no direction and no guidance. And that's what life is like without God. You're blown to and from, and the world is pulling you left and pulling you right. You've got no peace. You've got no hope. You've got no future. God tells us right there in Jeremiah, I'm going to give you hope and I'm going to give you a future. So guys, it's the only way we can do it. You and I have to read God's Word. And that way, we'll know what God's plan is in our lives. So thank you again this morning for watching it. I hope you guys have a great week. We've got Easter coming up next Sunday. I'll bring you a lesson on Easter. It's going to be a good lesson. Going to have a special guest coming in next Sunday to help with the message. So I hope you don't miss it. Guys, have a great week. God bless you. And I hope to see you guys soon. Take care. And I love you. I'll see you next time.